Governor, first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
So Amazon has pledged to bring 5,000 jobs to Nashville. Right. What's the status? When will we see those 5,000 jobs come to fruition?
Yeah, we're so excited about that decision that they've made and the partnership that they have with our state, and they're in the process of interviewing for those jobs now. So over the next year, I think we'll see those jobs being filled. We already see a building being built in downtown, and it also has created a lot of energy and conversation that has made other companies look at our state to expand their presence, and that's a little bit of what we're doing here in San Francisco today.
I'm so curious about the process. How did you convince Amazon to choose Nashville, and how did Amazon approach you?
You know, I think there are a couple of things that happen. One is we're a state that has a very business-friendly environment. We have no income tax. We have very low business taxes. We have a regulatory environment that's friendly to businesses. So companies know that about states. We're very fiscally soundly managed. Companies know that, so they sort that out. Then they look at incentive packages that states have to offer, and we certainly deal with companies in that way. We incent companies to come there. Then they look at things like workforce development, and we've made a tremendous push in our state to create workers for companies that are coming there. Particularly tech companies and technology-based companies. Our administration has done something called a Future Workforce Initiative that's establishing the kinds of education curriculum and pathways that will create the workers for the future.
Now, what about Amazon specifically? I mean, the process was so secretive, so there's a lot of curiosity about how this sort of tech hub came together and what sort of conversations you had back and forth. Did they tell you, you know, this is under lock and key, you can never say anything to anyone about what we're talking about ever, or...
Some of that occurred before I came into office. You know, I was inaugurated in January, so these deals were actually announced before I came. But there is a lot of, obviously they're looking at a lot of different cities, so there's a lot of proprietary information around that, and negotiating a deal with them. It's important that we not provide information on that company, spread it across the country. So, but when the time was right, then we made announcements, and there's a lot of excitement about it.
All right. Well, Amazon had planned to put the second part of its new headquarters in New York. There was a lot of pushback from local leaders, and Amazon pulled out. Is that a mistake on either Amazon's part or New York?
Well, we are just grateful that they're coming to Nashville. We realize what a important part they can play in creating jobs. At the end of the day, as governor, I know people's lives are changed when good jobs are created. They're going to create a significant number of good jobs and attract a lot of other companies that will create more jobs as well. Our economy is in a real strong position, and that's in our state. And decisions like this just accelerate all of that. So I don't know about their decision why or why not New York, but I certainly am excited about it.
Is it a loss for New York?
Well, it's certainly a gain for Nashville. I'll say that. New York has their own environment that only they understand what their needs are and what they want in their city. But we know what we need and what we want in our city, and Amazon was a good fit.
Now, there are some tech companies that are already there. Lyft has operations there. Postmates, Mitsubishi has moved some operations there. What in the future do you think you can offer tech companies? I mean, you're obviously making the case here in San Francisco this week to put a bet on Tennessee.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that we can do is show to them our commitment for workforce. Technology-related jobs require a workforce of the future, and they require an education system, I believe, that understands the needs of that workforce. And we created something called the GIVE Act, the Governor's Investment in Vocational Education Act this year, something called the Futures Workforce Initiative. Those are legislative initiatives that in fact create workers of the future. It changes the way our middle schools and high schools look, and ultimately changes the type of skills that people and workers in Tennessee have. We need to be a place that when Lyft is looking to expand their operations in Tennessee, that they know that they can add the 1,000 jobs they need to, or Amazon will know that the 5,000 jobs that they're going to need to fill, that there'll be a workforce out there to do it. So our investment in that's really important.
It's hard to hire tech talent here
It is.
in Silicon Valley. So how quickly do you think you can create a pipeline of Silicon Valley level tech talent in Nashville or wherever else in Tennessee?
Well, we certainly don't have the needs for tech talent that you have here, but it's emerging. And so we've got to attract those folks. One of the really great things about Nashville and about Tennessee, because it's not just Nashville, we have other major cities that are attracting tech companies, Memphis, for example, is really the environment that exists there for individuals that come. We have no income tax in our state. For people that are choosing where they want to live, and talented folks that want to choose their next career location, those are important issues to them. Quality of life, cost of living, significantly less than some of the other states that we're competing with. So all of those factors, I believe, are the reason that Nashville's adding 80 people a day to its population, and Tennessee broadly is becoming an increasingly attractive place for people to come.
Nashville voters just overwhelmingly rejected a transit bill that would have brought light rail to the city. Do you see a risk that Nashville or Tennessee might not learn the lessons of Seattle, which saw rising housing costs, a traffic crunch because they didn't move fast enough when Amazon came calling?
Right. Yeah, we have to lead on this. What I think is most important that we have to do, and we're talking about this in our Department of Transportation now, but with other municipal leaders, we need to think about what transportation is going to look like in the future. You know, investing in a multi-billion-dollar system that may be antiquated by the time it's built is not what we want to happen. I think transportation is rapidly changing. If you talk to some of the companies here about how people are going to move, that's what we need to be investing in from a transportation standpoint. We do have to stay ahead of that curve. In our major cities in Tennessee, we want to be ahead of the growth curve as much as possible, so that we can not make the same mistakes that other cities have had to make and had to learn. We want to learn from their mistakes and not remake them.
Now, as we're having this conversation, you've got Capitol Hill increasing scrutiny of big tech. You've got the Department of Justice, the FTC opening antitrust reviews into big tech, the FTC looking at Facebook specifically. Do you think Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon, do you think these companies are too big?
Oh, you know, what I think about these companies, first of all, I think Washington has an opportunity, and they have a role they play in the kinds of topics you're talking about. But I'm a business person who sees these companies primarily as an opportunity to create jobs. And when the market allows them to grow and to flourish and to create more jobs, then that's good for states like Tennessee. If they're in our state and they're growing and flourishing, I think that's good.
What would you say to those who say these companies are stifling innovation or need more regulation?
I think that there's an appropriate place for regulation in our world. That's part of what, for safety, for protection of rights. That's really important that we look at that. But at the same time, government needs to stay out of businesses to the degree that they can. There's a real right balance there, and I think we have to find that balance. But I'm a free market person who believes that businesses, when thriving, are really good for the economy, really good for jobs.
All right. Well, we've got Silicon Valley. LA is Silicon Beach. New York is Silicon Alley. What should Nashville's nickname
Yeah,
be?
you know what?
if it all
Maybe
works out?
I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Maybe it's Silicon East. So,
Silicon East, okay, or
yeah.
some sort of music.
Yeah, now there you go. Yeah, that's even better. I need to ask you that question.
Next time we talk,
There we go.
we'll have a
I'll have
decision
it
on
for
that.
you.
Okay, Governor, thank you so much for joining us. It's good
Delighted
have
to
you
be here. Thank you.
on the show.
All right.